A sigh of relief. A sigh of
Yeah.
relief to be back here with you, Heather, and the
Oh.
listeners, the folks, the stars, the fates. I saw Spider-Verse too, and I can't think of anything else. I literally cannot stop thinking about anything else. Spider-Verse is so frigging fun. Did I already talk
Oh,
about this, Heather? I think
I
I
don't
did.
think so.
You know I mean business when I say freaking instead of fucking.
Yeah, true.
But it's so fun. Have you seen it, Heather? The first Spider-Verse? Like
No,
the cartoon, the
I have
Spider-Man,
not.
like
But
it's
Spider-Man is my favorite franchise. Is that the correct term? Anyway.
you could say that. You can say that, Heather, and you'd be right. You'd be correct.
Oh, good.
Um, but if you love Spider-Man, I'm gonna need you to watch Spider-Verse. I'm gonna need
Okay,
you to watch the first one, and then I'm gonna need you to smoke a fat bowl. Okay. You don't
I can
even
do
need to
that.
smoke a fat. I could do that, boss. You got it, sis.
Yeah.
You don't even need to smoke a fat bowl because you'll watch this movie and you'll feel like you smoked a fat bowl. You know what I'm saying,
Oh,
Heather?
love that.
It's like, you know what? Yeah, I would say trip acid, it'd be too much. Trip acid.
Wow.
Is that what the kids say? But like it's just so I saw it in LA when it first came out in like 2018, and it was so fun. It's just so fun. It's so innovative. It deserves an Oscar. Did it get an Oscar? I think it was nominated at least. It's
Wow.
incredible. And if you love Spider-Man, Heather, like it is my favorite of any Spider-Man film ever made and ever put out. It's just there's you'll have to just watch the first one, but it's a real comic book character, Miles Morales, who's so and it's like a world of like where it's like the comic is like the two Spider-Mans or whatever. And again, I was thinking about this in terms of Gemini. Sorry, this all has a point. In
Oh,
the end, this all
I love
circles
this.
back.
Okay.
But like this so the world, like Miles Morales is a comic book character, and that's who this it's our main character for the Spider-Verse. And he gets bit by a radioactive spider while there is already a Spider-Man in his universe. So I won't spoil the whole thing, but
Oh.
that's sort of like the gist. And it's so fun in the way that it like crosses like universe, but and it really like they make it's just such a uplifting movie, and it's just done so beautifully, so well. So many people of color are like on the team, and that was like extra the point, like the music, the artistry, like thousands of people worked on this, and it's just truly one of the best. It's like the first of its time. It's so awesome. You should watch it, Heather.
Wow.
You'll love it. Oh,
Yeah.
and the people who like wrote 21 Jump Street, a lot of the humor comes is like the same creators of 21 Jump Street.
Oh, fun.
But like anyways, it's just the whole thing is just a moment. It's iconic, and the second one's in theaters. So that's why I'm like, you need to down the first one, get your
Right.
ass into theater, because seeing it in theaters is so extra important. But it just like made me, I was drawing so many like, I haven't been able to think about anything else. Really love the film.
Yeah.
And like living in New York, there's something also I think about watching Spider-Man when you live
Yeah.
in New York. It hits a little closer to home. And
Right,
I'm like
right.
literally looking up at the buildings as I leave the theater.
Right.
And I'm like, just imagine
Totally, totally.
swinging from them.
Yeah.
Like anyway, but my whole point to that is that like it started making me think about parallel universes and like this idea of like, what if I'm not a Pisces in another life? Or like, what if
Right.
like there's just this world of like the parallel universes and all the ways in which things could happen? It is such a fun black hole to dive into. But specifically in this like universe, like the team effort of Spider-Man, who's always like usually alone, it's such a fun ride that there's like more than one Spider-Man. And I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you and for the listeners, but like what a fun way to, I don't know. Like Spider-Man is a great selling comic on his own, right? He can save the world on his own. He's proven it time and time again. Yet this aspect of teamwork, this aspect of tapping into your human side and then your spider side, I don't know. It got me
Right.
thinking a lot about Gemini. Like I said, I smoked a fat bowl before I went. Just kidding.
As
But
you should.
like it just was kind of this like this fun idea of like we have choices in this life, y'all. We
Yes,
have simple like
yes.
there's split little actions where everything could be different, and it's so easy to be like nothing matters, whatever, blah blah blah, right? But again, it's an animated movie, but I gotta chill the fuck
No,
out. But
no,
like this
no.
idea that like it does fucking matter when you think of it
Yeah.
in these like multiple webs and universes of like worlds in which things could be different based on choices. Like shit really does matter.
Yeah.
And it is okay to think of things that seriously. There's a lot.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not articulating well what
No,
I'm
no,
trying
no,
to say.
no.
I'm still in the Spider Verse, but I don't know. It just like if more often than not I find myself being like, no, I do care. No, this
Yeah.
does matter. And I
Yeah.
think majority of people do or are starting to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was
No,
just
totally.
it was
Yeah.
not a profound thought, Heather. I do
Well,
apologize. Remember
no,
how I
no,
was like, I
no.
don't know how I'm going to start this episode. I did not mean to do this.
Wait, no, but there's a lot I want to say about this actually. Like,
Please, my God, take the mic.
yeah, yeah, no, that's so interesting because this idea of choices has been a huge theme for me the past few weeks. And I really attribute it to Gemini. But yeah, also I've been thinking a lot about the weight of choices. And I'm in a hiatus right now, and all my friends are like, you really could just like make this change and it's like totally fine and it's not that serious. But I'm like making it so serious in my head. And
Mm.
like I actually, you're gonna love this. I actually was scrolling through Instagram the other day and came across Taylor Swift's like commencement. Is that the correct her speech that she
Oh,
gave
like
at
for
NYU?
NYU? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
And
think, yeah.
I was just scrolling and she was talking about that. She was like saying that, you know, we make these choices in life and one thing leads to another and we make mistakes, but like and actually she was like getting to the punchline when Instagram like stopped, and then I tried to look for the whole speech and then I got tired and fell asleep, and I don't actually still intend to like listen to the whole thing and get what her like actual point was.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think that it's a very Gemini thing to think about. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about like how little past choices I've made have had a huge ripple effect, and that's like yeah, I think
It's
this
just
time is bringing that up for me at least. Yeah.
yeah, and well, and you talked about that, Heather, too, of how like in the stars sort of and like what we're going what this Gemini, the sun being in Gemini right now and like what it entails, so to speak. Like there was talk about like having to make like maybe a choice between two
Yeah.
things. And to wrap up the overall, because I feel like I started rambling there, I rolled away a little bit from us. Let me reel myself back in here. What I also like realize what I'm like trying to point out, what I'm trying to say is that there's a point, again, no spoilers, where Miles is kind of like how do you know it's all gonna like work out or like be okay, sort of
Yeah.
like, there's like one of those moments, maybe
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it 8 times since I've been home, after watching the second one. But like the Spider-Man's essentially is like, you don't like that's the only thing you know for sure, is that you kind of can't know the outcome, you can't know how things are going to work out, it's
Yeah.
all a leap of faith.
Mhm.
And that in itself is a choice, like choosing to leap without the unknown, and choosing to leap, so without this idea of a net underneath you to break your fall, like but there's like kind of like, I don't know, like a weird exciting trust in that alone, so to speak. Oh, like, or like, just like there is one thing that we know for certain, no matter what choice, like, and it's the idea that like if you choose not to participate, or you choose to sit something out, right, it's like you'll always know the outcome of that. And I just
Yeah.
think no matter what, even if there's multi universes, right, and you made all these different choices and them, like the overall outcome is the same. Like not making a choice at all is a choice. And
Right.
and you know what you're going to get from it every time. Choosing
Yeah.
the road less traveled, or the scarier route, or like just like choosing to trust in yourself, because you take that version of you no matter what universe you travel to. Okay, I'm coming
Yeah.
back. I'm coming back. I'm finding it. I'm finding it either.
You
I don't
always
know. It
do.
just really was like it was just so funny how I was like, this little animated movie is making me think more profoundly than I have
Yeah,
in
they often
years.
do. I feel that way all the time.
Honestly. Yeah, all due
That's
respect to
beautiful.
animated films, but yeah, I just, in like this Gemini time of like making choices and understanding that I think that's more of what the important thing is to remember, is that like if you're choosing to lead with your heart, so to speak, or you're choosing to like trust yourself and your gut and your own instincts, like I don't think you ever can technically make a wrong choice.
Right,
That you
right.
can always sort of be sure of.
If
The
it's
same way
coming
you can,
from you and your
yeah,
authenticity. Yeah.
I don't know, and maybe that is Gemini making me think and making me all airy, Heather. I don't know what's in the air.
Do you feel like as a Gemini moon yourself, like making decisions like that is a comfortable thing for you? Do you like to like shake things up and try new things, and do you
I find
find
that
it easy to choose a next path?
I find it sometimes whenever people sort of have opportunities like thrusted upon them, it boggles my brain when they don't take it. And there could be many reasons people don't, and like
Yeah.
yada yada. I'm not trying to like shit on that, but I think I'm someone when I'm interrupted like that by the universe and a random ass opportunity falls into my lap, or sort of not falls into my lap, maybe I'm sure I manifested it a time ago or what have you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really, really hard for me to not look at it as this route of like, it's life.
Right. I know.
Choose the event. Like I have to take the adventure every time, so to speak. I don't know. I do
Yeah.
find that sometimes my opportunistic, I think there's an opportunistic, I don't know what I'm trying to say, outlook I have sometimes,
Yeah.
where like if it's between my mundane regular or this
Mhm.
exciting new opportunity, perhaps I might, do
Yeah.
the just for the sake of living. What about you, Heather? Do you feel like in these Gemini times you're feeling a little more willing to risk it all?
Yeah, I do, but I feel the same way. Like, yeah, like if an opportunity falls in my lap or someone helps me out in some way, I don't know, I'm going through it right now, but like I see it as like, well, I feel like this is coming into my life for a reason, and like if I don't follow it, then like what am I rejecting? Like what grander opportunity am
Yeah.
I rejecting? So yeah, I feel the same way. And I think that there's a bit of like leaning into the Pisces trust with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, the
As I
Pisces and
used to
Gemini,
have,
both mutable signs, both
and both
transitional.
enable the shit out of each other.
Yeah. In the
They
best way.
love it though. Yeah, they're like little little twins skipping off.
Yeah.
But no, yes, I think I found it harder to. In high school, I was really hard on myself, and I put a lot of pressure on. I really like. I had to get into college. I had to like. I was really, really responsible and hard on myself in a way that I kind of had a breaking point in college where I almost did a whole not 360, but I just got, there was like an entitlement I had like that no one gave me. Like it was truly just a me issue where I was like, well, I worked so hard and I said no to so many things in high school, and like not realizing at the time, I think that I was holding myself back for things or restricting myself in ways I didn't know. Didn't realize at the time, clearly, because when got to college, I had this moment of like, I deserve this. I deserve to socialize and just have fun. I worked so hard to get here. Then I
Yeah.
flunked a class my sophomore year. And that was like a kind of nice little rude awakening that I needed, because I was like, oh, wait, I don't want to flunk out of school. Like I can't be having so much fun, and that school now becomes on the back burner. So like it was a hard little beautiful lesson in the end. But like, yeah, I think it took me a while to find that balance of like saying yes to things because like just the general balance. It's so sometimes like I can be on two extremes where I say no, no, no to a lot of things that I like want to do or have fun with because I'm like, I need to work or I need to feel like I'm being responsible. And by doing that, there's like a restriction aspect, and like finding that balance so that I didn't completely topple over to the other end of things. And then like, self-sabotage and all that was hard. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes any sense, Heather,
No,
but
it
like, yeah,
completely makes sense. And I
finding a
find
balance.
balance is fucking
So
hard.
we're
And
not,
I
we're
feel
not all
like
Libras.
I know, but I feel like Gemini must deal with that theme in a way too,
Yeah.
because it's the twins and it's represents two different sides of something. Like,
Yes.
yeah. Oh God, I've been
It
thinking
does
about
feel
that a
like it's
lot.
my Gemini moon personally, that voice that's sort of like, I don't know. It could also be Pisces though. Like my Gemini moon sometimes is, I feel like, the one that's like, okay, we need to focus. We need to get serious, and like can get very extreme, like, and by getting focused and serious, we're going to cut ourselves off from socializing and any form of like it's like it took me so long to learn that, like, it doesn't mean you have to be one or the other. You're allowed to have both. You're allowed to have work and play, and those are allowed to exist in the same world. Like, it took me so long to learn that, like, I would just get into moods of like all work, no play, or does that make sense? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Almost
And
two extremes.
yeah. And I feel like maybe I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like maybe we need to experience the complete extremes, or maybe it's a person by person case, but in my experience I kind of like need the pendulum to go like completely to one side and then to the other before I'm able to like understand how to balance an aspect of my life.
Yeah.
Although I feel like that's dangerous, and I'm trying to like practice moderation more, but that's very fucking hard for me.
Yeah. It's hard to have a world of moderation when like work is not a moderation.
Yeah, you're
Does
right.
that make sense? I don't mean to say, I don't mean to make it so hippie and like fight the man, but it is such a crock of shit to be told everything in moderation, because why is play sacrificed way more than fucking work is?
You're so
and
right.
The benefits of like work and what that looks like. So like it always feels like no wonder there is maybe an extreme end, because when you're grinded to the bone, or when you feel like you're constantly working, or the way society operates, it's like, that's why we're at if society was if society was better balanced, Heather, it's bullshit that we are supposed to balance in a society, in a world that's not balanced. So just saying.
I love
because
that.
like if society was more balanced, so many people wouldn't be bitching about the work schedule, bitching about like not wanting to return to the office, like yada yada yada. It's like, if you are going to make us work 40 hours a week, the least you can do is give us at least 2 work from home days, or like make the whole thing remote, because there's clearly an imbalance, is my point. And it's bullshit to expect us to do the same, or like I feel like we have to overcompensate as human beings. We have to really really go work hard and go out of our way to make sure we're balanced. It shouldn't be that hard.
You're so right. No,
for that tangent.
No, I love that you're so right. I
not
feel
trying to
better
take responsibility, but it is also like, well, how can we even, like, no wonder, like, I think too, Heather, you and I, we've bonded over this, being theater majors. The world asks you and worries about you, and kind of projects on you this idea of like, that's not a real degree in college, blah blah blah. Like, I know we talk about experience this when we were an undergrad and stuff, and it's like, I was also raised by an accountant. My mom is an accountant who's very logical and like math brained, and like I think the older generation sometimes also was not treated properly about balance, clearly. I mean, if our generation wasn't, sure as fuck their generation wasn't. And but almost to like a fault where I feel like that was maybe projected onto our generation a lot, in a way that our generation kind of sat there and was like, why though? Why? Like, why are we doing this? Why is it just the way things are? And I do love that we're slowly asking questions, but it's again, it's crazy that this peak pandemic time made it really like visible how unhappy a lot of people are.
Totally.
And people are quitting their jobs and shit. And it's like, now imagine if we just made the work-life balance more obtainable, how many people wouldn't, I don't know.
Break. No.
Stupid.
Totally. And I think about it a lot with like Black Friday, like around Thanksgiving time, and like I don't know, the consumerism culture is like trying to manipulate us to not practice moderation. Like so this conversation made me feel better, because it's true. It's like,
I didn't mean to get all political and tangent. But also I got angry listening to you, because I'm like, it's not your fault or my fault. It's not really. I'm not angry listening to you, but I was more just like, well, no fucking wonder. Look what they teach us. Yeah,
I know.
Anyways, but we're slowly bringing it back to life with astrology.
No, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
I just also think our generation, it's like, and again, we've talked about this before, Heather, it's sort of in the stars that our generation sort of like, or this time is very much sort of an awakening period. We talked about this. There's grumblings of sort of a bigger awakening at play.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just really interesting that our generation has more pushback than ever before in a way that I'm really
Mhm.
proud of.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
There's a lot of pressure on us, I think, but it's like it's I
it
feel
just
really
doesn't need to
optimistic.
be. It just
Yeah.
doesn't need to be so much
Yeah.
fucking. We can just all be having a way better time.
I think so. I think so. Ugh. But I was gonna say one
Please.
last thing about the Gemini and Libra, the fact that the symbols, they both kind of represent, I mean, Libra represents balance, but Gemini
Right.
represents this duality. It's interesting that two of the air signs represent that. I'm almost thinking like, is there a tendency in our brains, in our like mental faculties as humans to like, uh, is there something about like human beings being very mental creatures that requires like more balance? I
I
don't
mean,
know. Is that,
Pisces has the duality of the
oh,
two
you're right.
fish.
Pisces does too. Yeah. And I bet if I
I'm
really
just,
think
as you
about
said that,
it,
I was like, that's interesting too to think about.
and Sagittarius is half man, half horse, which is sort of like another duality in a way. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that
It
thought
really is
was
so interesting to
pointless.
think about. No, I don't think it was pointless at all, Heather. As you were saying it too, I do. I think there's like, I think every human being experiences this, right? And then, you know, a lot of people turn to religion, or a lot of people turn to atheism and are just like, the faith you're describing is just your conscious, like hoping there's something bigger on the outside because it
Mm-hmm.
makes this whole thing easier. Like,
Right,
blah, blah,
right.
blah.
Yeah.
And then I think there's like spirituality in general where it's like, yeah, I don't really know if like the bigger creator of everything is a white guy. Like, but there's an inherent gut feeling of something bigger. I think
Yeah.
astrology is this world that ties in like something we can't see but are a part of.
Yeah.
Right. And it kind of,
Yeah.
there's like a substance there. And again, it's not for everyone. I don't think astrology really cares who's with or not with it.
Yeah.
It's an entity of its own entirely at this point. But
Right,
like,
right.
it really is interesting with astrology being sort of this like bigger than man itself, right? Bigger than
Mm-hmm.
humans, but still a part of the human experience. And I think there's so much to learn. It does feel like there's a bigger lesson to learn, right? If the whole idea of humanity is a bigger lesson to learn, right? Like, feels like we're
Yeah.
learning it. I don't know. And it
Yeah.
does feel like there's this idea that it's a limited ability of being able to learn that has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with this world and the meat bags we're in, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
this feeling of like a bigger, a higher subconscious, I don't know. It makes a lot more
Yeah.
sense to me why astrology has so many dualities, because I think there
Right.
are some things that are just bigger than the human understanding,
Yeah.
but in a
Yeah.
way that you want so badly to understand it, you feel a part of it. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really wild. I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to get
Totally.
this trippy on the pod today,
I know. I know. I know.
but I'm
It's
kind of loving it.
me too. I do too. Yeah. And it's interesting how many like I don't know. I just I produce a storytelling event. I just read this book about story structure because I'm ghostwriting a novel and trying to
Oh, that's fair.
understand like the mechanisms of storytelling and realizing just like Spider-Verse that like a common theme in a shit ton of stories, I would even say like most stories is this idea of like a duality or needing to balance your opposite or like own your shadow self and
Right.
stuff like that. So there's something like profoundly human but also maybe spiritual about that. Yeah, I agree.
It really is fascinating. And also like, um as an only child, like it's so fun to look at duality for me personally and selfishly, and understand that it doesn't always have to mean duality in the physical form, or that there's two of
Yeah.
the exact same there. And I think that's like, right, that's so human, right? That's such the human experience, right? Because we have these subconsciouses, and we have these like just these inner thoughts and this inner monologue. We have these egos, right? But we also have these, there's this idea of we've got souls, we've got spirits there. There's something bigger than us on the inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's something powerful in that kind of energy, and in that kind of love, and the way you spread it, and how like
Mm-hmm.
why morals count, yada yada yada. But
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
there's the nature and the animalistic aspect that is being human on this. It's really fascinating. It really is.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, and I'm starting to like now recognize, I'm like, astrology really put it on the nose there, didn't it?
I
It
know.
really,
I
like, the symbols
know.
are kind of right there. It's just
Ugh.
it's fun to look at it that way, not so much in the way of like, because I think at first when I saw the two Pisces, it didn't always click for me. And I was like, oh, well, I don't have a twin and I don't have like a sibling. There's not like
Right.
another fish with me. But
Right.
like everyone does have their own. They're like, even if you
Yeah.
do have siblings, like, I don't know, there's a two side to human nature, it feels like. It's really, really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Wow.
Just interesting stuff.
I love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
We really went some places here today, Heather.
I
We
know.
traveled
You brought up acid in the beginning and we said.
and we promise we're not on it, folks. But this has just been yeah, and I knew better. I should have opened with Spider-Verse. I knew I
Oh
was
my
gonna get
God.
all I knew I was gonna get all trippy with it. But yeah, anyways, my point to that is watch the movie. The second one's
Yeah.
out in theaters still. Like, watch it.
Yeah.
But with that, Heather, what's before we hop into these charts, in terms of like anything we've said so far, sort of what's going on in the sky and in Gemini season right now, how
Hmm.
are we feeling? How are we feeling about things?
Good.
How I'm a
Good.
little higher up than the last time we recorded, or when we started recording last episode.
Yeah, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like more clarity around the decisions I need to make. And like, definitely, I feel like I've thought really hard about everything since Gemini started. And I've talked to
Mm.
a lot of people about uh decisions and stuff like that. And yeah, lately I feel a lot of clarity. And we're recording this a little bit ahead of time, but the
Okay.
Gemini new moon is approaching as you listen to this.
Okay.
And yeah, and that is happening at the same time that there's this connection to Neptune, which is Pisces planet, which is very spiritual, very broad scope, very like yeah, long-term perspective, but in terms of spiritual and energetic growth. And so that's interesting to me that there's this sense of like making a decision or maybe even like transitioning into a new start or a new yeah, we're also entering the summer
Mm.
solstice this week, so entering
There's
into a
just a
new
lot of
start, but
new.
with that long-term perspective that is more feeling based and more intuitive and spiritual rather than that Gemini um mental. Does that make sense?
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
do. Yes, it makes so much sense. Like, it's air with a little touch of water there for
Yeah.
the internal work. It's
Yeah.
like it's a little bit, it's air on the outside with some water for your inner child. Just kidding.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But say
So,
that one more time, Heather. I'm sorry. Neptune is Pisces planet.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Pisces is Neptune. Say it again.
Yeah, Neptune rules Pisces.
Pisces.
Yeah.
And then
It's
it's
Pisces ruling planet. Yeah,
and
yeah.
then Neptune is going to be moving into Gemini.
It's forming a square. No, Neptune's been in Pisces for a long
Oh, it's
time.
been in Pisces.
Yeah, and it's
Okay,
going
okay.
to
I'm
be
sorry. I'm
forming
sorry.
a square, so hitting the
I
Gemini
see. I see. I
sun
see.
at a 90-degree angle at the same time that the Gemini new moon is happening.
I see.
So,
I see.
yeah.
Sorry. I needed to retrace my steps back to that again.
No, it's
Um,
how would you know? Yeah.
oh, but that timing is very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
manifestation time is it's just really interesting to think about, like fresh starts, new horizons, but specifically on like the bigger, like you said, more Pisces, third eye open perspective of things, right?
Totally. Yeah. And at the same time that we're like entering the summer solstice, we're entering
Yes.
Cancer season. And
Wow.
that's way more too about like sinking into your feelings. And like after
Mm-hmm.
you've, been in the brain and been in the Gemini and you're thinking about options and choices, Cancer is very like, okay, let me sit with this and see how it feels now. Like I'm in this new energy. Uh, how does this feel for me
Right.
emotionally? Yeah.
Processing it later the way Cancer
Mm-hmm.
would.
Mm-hmm.
And see,
Yeah.
Heather, this is why you're the astrological genius.
Ah.
Heather Cunningham, folks. That was a long, big, open intro. But truly, Heather, that was. Thank you for putting that way. My visuals needed to catch up with what you were with your words, as your little astrology dumb co-host, this little Miss Soul, me, Miranda,
the host of our dreams.
and I try my best, Heather. Oh my God, real quick. I can't believe you just literally reminded me. Before we hop into these birth charts, Heather, this is awful, and I can't believe I'm saying it for the first time to you on the podcast. I had a dream, a nightmare, and it was so cute and like literally sunny and beautiful, and you and I were FaceTiming, and like not like how we not like for the podcast, like truly just catching up, you and me, like we're just talking, and like you're in the backyard somewhere, you're like outside, and I'm like FaceTiming with you from inside, and out of nowhere, Heather, you are attacked by a swarm of bees.
What the fuck?
But like it really was so traumatic because on my, in my nightmare, it's just my perspective, and I'm like watching the FaceTime, and I just see like I hear you scream, and the phone drops, and the bees are like covering the phone, and I'm like, what do I call 911 about bees? And like I'm just panicking, and then the swarm of bees comes through my phone screen and attack me. And then I wake the fuck up. And I think I even had a text from you that morning too about like recording, and I was like, oh, mercy. And like it was just a horrible but it was kind of funny. And I've been having a couple really vivid dreams like that. But you know what it reminded me of? I was just like, damn, bitch, that's how in sync you are with Heather. Like in your dreams, what she's experiencing is coming through the phone and out to you. Like it was honestly kind of special, and I thought of it that way.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is.
But it really was awful because I was like screaming. I was like, Heather, Heather. And then they came through the phone. And I think that's also when I was like aware in my dream. I was starting to be like, bitch, wake up. That's impossible. Bitch, that's bitch, wake up. Anyway, sorry.
Oh my God. Bees.
I don't think that's a bad omen.
Yeah. Well,
see, I don't think it was a bad omen. If anything, it felt like extra special. How much I cared about you in the nightmare, and how much the relief I got when that didn't happen. But also, I was like, wow, we're so in sync. Her pain is my pain.
Oh my God.
Just kidding. I'm putting the flip on it.
So interesting. Bees. Wow.
It was.
I'm gonna think about that.
I'm sorry. And you know what? And I think it's because I fell asleep, like right before I fell asleep, I was watching TikTok, and it was that there's that girl on TikTok who's like, and another day of saving the bees.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
She picks them up with her bare hands. And I'm horrified of bees. They really are the thing that I used to tell people growing up, that they were like, when a bee would come near in the way, I would freak out about it. People were like, oh my God, get a grip. And I was like, sorry, I'm allergic. And they'd be like, oh, sorry. And inside I'd be like, bitch, I'm not allergic. I'm just that afraid.
That's amazing.
No, but I do think it's because I went on like a rabbit hole of watching this woman. She saves the bees all the time. She's fascinating. She picks them up with her bare hands. They sting her all the time. She doesn't flinch. She like, I forget her name, but she's this like little blonde. She's got like beehives upon hives. She's just so into saving the bees. And we do. You know what I think the dream was, Heather? You and me spreading the word about global warming through this podcast, and how we need to save the bees.
Yeah.
That's what that nightmare was about.
Holy shit. I like that take. Oh my God.
They're dying at a rapid rate, folks.
Oh, that's sad. We need the bees.
It is sad. We do.
Oh my God. Wow, this is blowing my mind.
Anyways, so we'll have to circle back to that. We'll have to,
I'm gonna do some research about bees. Yeah.
Don't freak
out. My sister's listening. My sister is like the dream whisperer. I should ask her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Please.
Wow. I actually started smoking less so that I could have more dreams. So far, it's not really working. But I love that. I love the communication from the subconscious. It's very Gemini.
Yeah, it really is. I have been looking up more of my dreams recently too, and I remember them. But yeah. With that, Heather, shall we pivot over to these birth charts?
Let's do it.
Speaking of dreams, these next two birth charts, am I right?
These dreamy
Dreamy gems.
icons. Yeah.
These dreamy Geminis. Just a couple of broads we have today, Heather. Just incredible broads.
Yeah.
Oh, I just realized I don't remember who went first last time. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to start.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm like, we all know her.
Yeah.
We all love her. Especially if were JFK.
Oh my God.
Stop it, Heather. I'm being nasty. Marilyn Monroe. So fun to me that she's a Gemini. It totally like checks out in that sense. But I think again, I was more of like, the Geminis are interesting because I've noticed that there's a lot of like Geminis we've had, like seeing them on the list has made me a little more like again, I just think it's like that Gemini punch, right? Or like people aren't maybe always what they seem on the surface when it comes to Gemini. It's just really interesting because, like, of course, if I had to guess, I would say Marilyn Monroe is like, fire as fuck. And she does have her Leo. She has a Leo rising, but then Aquarius moon.
Yeah.
Which is like, so she's got that double air, but then that fire rising, and I just like Norma Jean, God bless her. But yeah, it's just really fast. It fascinates me because someone like Marilyn to me screams fire, but who reminds me a lot of Marilyn Monroe? Kim Kardashian, also an air sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I think air has that charm about them. There's just such a charm that comes with like air, especially when air knows how to use it.
For
especially
sure.
maybe when air teams up with fire. But
oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Gemini for sure. I mean, being good with your words and it's very, there's a charm there for sure.
Like, yeah, I'm not trying to, maybe Kim Kardashian isn't the best with her words, but again, she's not, we're talking about Libra, but she knows how to still be charming in her own right, in
Libra's
her own way.
that.
And like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Kim Kardashian is aware of herself, knows her brand. I think that's also what's like kind of fun about her. Very similar to Paris. Like, I feel like air signs have an essence of like, you could never say anything to me I haven't already said to myself, and like wouldn't say to myself almost. You know what I mean? I don't know. I do feel like air maybe gives off this appeal that it's way more self-aware than I think it likes to like show, or that is just sort of like, again, air's thing, and I'm maybe I'm just new to realizing that. But does that seem like I'm on anything correct there, Heather?
Yeah. No, I think so.
Completely missing the mark.
Yeah. Wait, sorry. You're saying air signs are self-aware?
I feel like as we are talking, I feel like I think that now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're the mental signs. So I think that there is, and they say that air signs are detached. I think it requires, you have to be able to like detach a bit in order to see things for what they are objectively. So yeah, I think so. But
interesting. That's
I was also gonna say just really fast that I think it's interesting looking at all the Geminis. I mean, the other Gemini we're going to cover today is a model. I was kind of struck by how many of the Gemini celebrities, when you Google it, are models. Like Heidi Klum, we're not going to have a chance to do, but she's a Gemini.
That's right.
I mean, I would say Marilyn Monroe, like some of these like beauty icons, which is interesting. And because I would imagine that like Libra and Taurus and the Venus ruled signs would have like a capital on that, but like yeah, but it's interesting that if you're Gemini, you probably have some Taurus placements also. Like Marilyn Monroe has the midheaven in Taurus. Interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. No, you're so right. You are so right. Like, yeah, her chart is fascinating. It's very top heavy from what I'm like seeing, but then she's got like that striking, like that. What is this triangle I'm looking at, Heather?
Yeah,
This
a grand
blue.
trine.
Yeah, what is
It's a
that?
grand trine.
I could
That's
see
like,
that. I've
if
never
you have
seen a triangle, honestly, like that, but I could see it.
yeah, no, there's some charts that are like all grand trine, and that's like crazy. So like usually you have to have a placement in all three of the element. So Marilyn has Pluto in Cancer, Saturn in Scorpio, and Mars in Pisces, the three water signs, and so they all relate to each other harmoniously. And if you have those long blue lines in your chart, making up like a triangle, then that's a grand trine.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's cool. So
Oh.
it's Mars in the eighth. So Mars is like how you assert yourself. Mars is a personal planet, so it's like ego driven and it felt very personally. But then the other two
Mhm.
planets involved in the grand trine, Pluto and Saturn, are more like Saturn's like a social planet and Pluto's an outer planet. So that's interesting. It's almost like when she asserts herself, she's doing it with the support of these outer planets, where maybe like she's able to connect with the collective unconscious a little bit easier, or there's like, they would say like a faded sort of energy
That
with
is
this
so
connection. Yeah.
interesting. And you know what? When you talked about air signs being detached, again, I know I'm comparing Marilyn with a lot of other air signs today, specifically like Kim Kardashian. But when I think of Paris Hilton too, and like her Aquarius nature, right? Like
Yeah.
Paris Hilton talks about how she had to almost invent that character and how
Right.
her voice changes, like her
Yeah.
regular talking voice at home isn't what she presents herself with. I had to imagine Marilyn had a very similar
Oh,
way about her.
yeah, I'm
And it's
sure.
almost like, whereas like fires, I feel like I see a lot of divas and I'm automatically, or like performers, or just people who really do well in the spotlight, and I assume they're all fire. But I think fire is able to be in the spotlight, and it's because it's its literal nature. It's able to take it. It's able to literally take the heat, be the character. It's just able to endure. Like that
Yeah.
is fire's nature. I feel like a way a lot of air signs are able to be in the spotlight, or able to be these sort of like personas or icons, right? Because we have so many who are air signs, and air doesn't always strike you as a performer type. But
Yeah.
in order to take that kind of literal heat, I feel like the way you talked about air signs detaching
Yeah.
is almost the only way it can be done.
Totally.
And so many
Totally.
air, like Kim Kardashian is almost like she's playing up a character of herself. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like she knows the
Yeah.
brand at this point. She knows what's going to make the money. I don't think she would post nearly as much on Instagram if Instagram wasn't making her so much fucking coin.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just making, like my whole point is that like right. I think air signs are really good at being able to detach in a way that they can withstand and endure a lot of bullshit when it comes to like being in the spotlight like that. Marilyn having this poor baby with this
I
fucking
know.
grand trine in water. She didn't
Yeah.
stand a chance.
I know. I
I
know.
don't and I
And
don't mean that
Neptune in the
disrespectfully.
first
She's
house.
incredible. But just
Yeah.
like falling in like, everyone always loves to talk about Marilyn and the JFK stuff and yada yada yada. I'm not going to paint her as the other woman. None of my business. I think you can be a Jackie fan and a Marilyn fan. You know what? I think the only issue in the fan I'm not of is JFK. I'll be honest. But my point is, because they killed her. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. But like just I the way the story is told, and a lot of the way the documentaries and just people of that time like describe it, I think this bitch was madly in love with JFK.
Mm.
And like looking at her chart, I'm more like, oh, he had an obsessive side piece. He should not have gotten involved with that girl. Look at this fucking no, you know what I mean? Like, and I hate it when people act like Marilyn Monroe is this other woman and JFK didn't have any fucking power or control. I
Oh, yeah.
genuinely more just me. I'm kind of like Marilyn had so many suitors and could really get any guy she wants. This chart though, I'm like, that girl was in love with JFK.
Yeah, no, it's a very romantic chart. There's like, yeah, it's actually, the more I look at it, the more it all makes so much sense. Like
Yeah.
Moon in the seventh house of one-to-one relationships, opposite Neptune in the first, which is Pisces ruling planet, that is like looking at people through rose-colored glasses, but also prone to playing the martyr and needing to sacrifice something, and delusions of grandeur. Opposite this moon in the relationship house, and oh yeah, Mars and Pisces in the eighth. There's a lot. Yeah.
And then in her airway detach herself, no longer became, was born Norma Jean, right? And like a brunette,
Yeah.
I want to say. And then like in order to live this like lifestyle and be sort of like, she had to commit. It's really interesting to watch.
Right.
Paris, did something
No, you're so
similar.
right. It's a really good point. Yeah, about
Really
the air
interesting that
signs.
because I think these really famous air signs in this capacity are such divas, are such characters in their own right and respectfully. And that's but it's like, it's not it's like they're a character of themselves. They really are almost playing a character. And I do think that's just something maybe a lot of really famous people sort of have to do. But specifically, like, we've just covered some character air signs during the recording of this entire podcast. Like, I'm talking back in Libra and Aquarius and now Gemini, and this is just something that kind of struck me
Yeah,
recently as we were
totally. And we
recording. It's
talked
just,
about that with like the earth signs a bit, like Dolly Parton and some of the earth signs that are able to like cultivate this like character almost.
mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. I feel like fire and water are the ones who like they just are. Like you
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Right.
They're the easiest. They're the most comfortable in their skin in a way, or I
Right.
guess earth is too, but it's I don't know. Fire and water just can't help but be whatever they're feeling in the moment.
Yeah, not that fire or water can handle it by any means.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, so fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in Marilyn's chart, Heather, that I'm not like? Is that also a red triangle I see? Oh no, but the blue is when they're the same element.
Yeah. And then there's an opposition between the Leo rising and the moon in Aquarius, because those are opposite energies, so they kind of deal with the same thing but in opposite ways. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a good balance of like tension and ease in this chart. And I would say that Venus also being right next to the midheaven. So the midheaven is like your public persona, how you appear to like the public at large. And Venus is, the planet of beauty. So that's interesting too.
Oh, so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn was just it is such a tragedy. It's really a tragedy. She died so young. Like, just seeing what she could have really done, and really like she just died so young. Like, to really just think of like all the places her career really could have gone. And like, again, I only know this from like documentaries and sort of like what people have sort of said like historically, but I do feel like she was, especially looking at her chart, I cannot imagine. Like, it makes so much more sense to me that, of course, she wanted to be taken seriously as an actress, and I do think she was really starting to try to like get into that role and not just carve like this like surface level character that the world sort of knew. It's like she really wanted to. I mean, look at the depth. Look at her chart. Like,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense to me. It is just so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like her whole story is just, it's wild, right? I want to say Marilyn was discovered in a parachute making factory. Like, she was working in the factory during like World War II, I think. I could totally not be
Really?
correct on the dates. Wait, how old is Marilyn Monroe? But
I
like, she
don't
was
know.
discovered like in a like working in a factory.
Wow.
That's like where someone like saw her and was like, you're gorgeous or whatever. Like, that's, and she was Norma Jean. And I also want to say she comes from not the most stablest of a home. I want to say her mom, like, she was almost raised by a single mother, I
Saturn in
think.
the
I don't
fourth in Scorpio, you mean?
uh see, I can't remember if her father died or if he left. I kind of feel like he
No,
did
that makes
leave. I should have looked
sense.
this up more, but
And
like,
Neptune is the planet of loss, and it's in the first. Yeah.
holy shit. And like, she really, to me, Marilyn is someone who so desperately wanted to feel and be loved.
Yeah.
And looking at this
Yeah.
chart, I'm like, well, no
The Leo
wonder.
rising, the Mars and Pisces. Absolutely. It's really sad. It's really sad. Ugh. When you have Neptune in a
She loved
house like
JFK.
that, like the first house of identity, there's usually a sad tale there. Ugh.
Really?
Yeah. Because
That's
Neptune is
crazy,
just
Heather.
like, I know. It's one of those things that, like, I don't even like to say it, like, looking at a chart like this, because it's so, like, depressing. But it's like crazy how true it is if you have like a strong Neptune placement like that. Like, loss is a big theme in your life. But like the energy, it's spicy. So it's making you it's
It's
like
like all
connecting you with
again, yeah.
something grander.
It's all a big web of
Yeah.
choices and decisions for, yeah. And again, like it's not, we can't sit here and say Marilyn didn't leave a huge grant, like a huge
Oh my
life.
God. Yeah.
She's still one of the biggest icons to date. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
I
legacy
love
is
Marilyn
insane.
Monroe. I really do. It used to
Yeah.
make me so mad when we were like younger and on like the Tumblr post or whatever, or like I would see things online where it was like so many women have like posters of Marilyn up in their rooms, like she was a home wrecker and all this and that. And I remember always getting so mad at
Yeah,
that.
that's bullshit.
Because I was always like, why aren't y'all adding JFK? And again, this was before we really had the language for a lot more of it and we were having these bigger
Yeah.
sorts of conversations. But I feel like, especially more recently too, Marilyn has continued to only get more respected as the years have gone on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a way
Yeah.
that she deserves. And like,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah. Poor sweet baby angel.
I
Marilyn, look at this
know.
chart, sweetie. Norma Jean,
Mm.
we love you. Visit us from the afterlife and come on the pod. Stop. I have to stop, Heather, with all that.
Visit us in the afterlife.
Shall we move on to our next beauty, our next
Yes.
beautiful godlike Gemini queen?
Yes. She's the supermodel of, to me, the supermodel, Naomi Campbell. What a beauty. But what also, like, what I love about her is that she's like an outspoken like diva. Like, she's a Gemini, and you watch any interview with her and you get Gemini, because she does not hold back. She is so honest, so blunt. And
I love when a Gemini is tapped into their socialness, or like, because I feel like I like there can be some Geminis who are more on the quiet side. And again, it's like we say, when you don't know someone's all like top 3, or it is like I've had people who are like, I'm a Gemini, but I don't really like relate to the like chattiness. And I'm like, I've always maybe not, I've understood that it's not that Gemini, like, I don't think it always means talks excessively. I just think talking in general is a comfort. And to me, that can also mean like one-on-one in private, you know, like what to me, it's like, it's the connection, like the general connection Gemini receives from like being able to relate to another human through expressing themselves, like talking, or just like when you are going to speak, like being authentic to your voice and to your truth, so to speak. Like, sorry. That's just something that like, to me, Gemini doesn't mean you talk excessively like me. It's just more like it's talking is a,
it's like a vehicle for connection, or
it's bigger than what it
stimulation.
Sorry.
Yeah, for
just
sure,
wanted
for
to
sure.
add that. That as a Gemini, I just wanted to add that.
That's a good point. I agree. Yeah. I love, Naomi. Okay, so she has Capricorn rising right at the end, the last degree of Capricorn, and a Sagittarius moon. Oh my God, no wonder the bluntness is compounded by that Sagittarius moon. I mean, the the bluntest people I know.
Shouts out to Alex.
I was like, should I say it? Alex Nightingale, love her, but oh my God, she will give you the honest truth.
I don't go to her when I'm like actually looking for. I do go to her if I really need the truth, but if I'm like, no, I need someone to maybe be nice, I call my mom. So I don't know.
Oh,
it's so funny.
So Naomi, has this sun right on the IC, which is opposite the MC. So that I've mentioned this a little bit before, that you have like the ascendant, which is the AC on the chart. Then you have the descendant, which is the 7th house. that's on the opposite end. And then you also at the top have the MC, the midheaven, and then at the bottom, the IC, which stands for something that sounds like a Greek word that I'm not even going to attempt to say right now. But,
Bless.
but,
God bless Heather. Go on.
but yeah, Naomi has the sun on the IC opposite the midheaven. So there's some sort of like tug and pull here about, needing to shine in the private, like home life, emotional, domestic sphere, but then there always being like a motivation to thrive on the public front as well. And there's like a battle there in this chart,
Interesting.
which I don't know enough about Naomi to get too much into this. I do know that she started modeling when she was 15, which is
Wow.
like, that baffles me to be
does.
that young and to be traveling the world and
Yeah.
doing photo shoots. And yeah, I really know Naomi as just someone who like really speaks her mind and is like just beloved by the gays as being like a total icon. There's this interview where she was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, and he asked her how she feels about Kendall Jenner like rejecting some of her opportunities and only being able to do like 30 or not being able to do 30 shows a season or whatever. And Naomi was like, next question. Which is so Gemini, Sag, and also Capricorn rising. I feel like Naomi's a workaholic and proud of that. And takes her position seriously. And
again, all the best ones have Cap.
Yeah.
Or like it just, or not Cap, but just like Earth in general.
Yeah.
It's always like a proponent.
Yeah. Good at the grind. Embraces the grind.
Well, modeling too is it's not easy. I think
oh my God.
Like so many people look at it as the dream and like the mental exhaustion, let alone physical toll it takes on you. Like, and just I mean, to be a household name like she is as a model is the work that was put into that. I don't know. It does just like, because acting's a little different. You may be like really big household name actors or actresses usually featured in something that's like, even if you didn't see the movie, you might know the name if they're making a splash or things like that. Modeling is something that it's a little like, it's almost it's an even bigger scale to me because it's not in everyone's like, what am I trying to say? It's not something that maybe people would normally always see unless you're like a model that was like in a movie, of course. But like,
right.
Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. But to me, to be a household name as a model is really, really, really huge.
Right. We only know of a few like household name models.
You're just not thrusted upon the public as much as, you are when you're like an actor or a musician or like, it's kind of similar to like a painter too. Like to be a household name as like a painter is kind of like, whoa.
Right.
Like,
you're right.
You really had to do something there to get, does that make sense? Like that's
no,
just
absolutely. Yeah, totally. Whereas we know a gazillion actors. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Also interesting that so for Naomi, the sun is at 0 degrees of Gemini, which I feel like is something we haven't talked on the pod about just yet. But they say that if your planet is in the early degrees of a sign, you're kind of still learning and mastering that energy in this lifetime. Whereas if it's in the last degrees, you have more, it comes more naturally. You're more like an expert at that energy, just naturally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, and like, so Heather, this is something you look at when you see your actual physical birth chart. You can see like the actual degrees, because now I want to look at mine, of course.
Yeah. Usually, like in this astro theme chart, it has the little number with the little degree symbol, literally
and that's what
right next to. Yeah. So you can see that like Naomi's sun, it's the sun symbol, and then it has the 0 and the little degree symbol. So it's a 0 degree Gemini.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I want to look at that up now too. And you said like I'm so sorry, say it one more time. At what percentage does it start to become that you would be considered like what does the degrees go up to?
There's 29 in each sign. So So yeah, if you're like the first
Half of
15,
29,
yeah,
15-ish degrees
then you're more so
about.
like meant to learn the energy of that sign throughout this life. Whereas if you're in
Interesting.
the last part, you're meant to like demonstrate your mastery. Um,
Ooh, I gotta look that up.
yeah, it's interesting. They call it deacons or dakins. Everyone pronounces it differently, but there's actually like 3 deacons within the sign if you want to get really complex with it, where like
3
people are
different
like, I'm a
degrees.
first deacon Gemini, meaning you're like in the early
Uh,
signs. Yeah, they break it up into 3 parts. Everything in astrology is so fucking
oh,
complex.
like
Like,
instead of like I'm a February Pisces and I'm a March Pisces, it's
right,
like I'm a
exactly. It's like that, but it's like, I'm a 3rd deacon Pisces. Yeah.
so sorry, Heather, just to ask you, like I'm
Yeah.
born truly, as we know, I'm like right almost on the cusp, but I'm not a cusper. When people love to tell
Yeah.
me I'm the cusp all the time, and I'm like, no, no, I'm a Pisces. And this is
I'm a
what you talked
29
about too.
degree. Yeah.
This because this is what you talked about too. You're like, no, I'm the literal last degree of Aquarius. So are you
Yeah.
the 29th degree of Aquarius?
Yes. Yes.
So would I like, even though I don't know the exact degree, since I come so close to the end of like, so basically where your lineup is in the Pisces season can
Yeah.
help you
Yeah.
understand that.
For sure. If you're early,
This is
yeah, if
why I
you're like the
can't
first
trust
day of
February
Gemini.
Pisces. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, you must be a last deacon Pisces. Yeah.
And so you're a last deacon Aquarius. You're a third
Aquarius.
generation deacon Aquarius. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
I've had many Aquarius lifetimes.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Heather, real quick side tangent for us.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is extra interesting. That again, the more I learn about just like astrology, the more I learn about like you and me and our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this a lot, how I'm like, I'm close with my Aquarius is a sign that I vibe with well,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also your Pisces placements I think
Mm-hmm.
are wild. And then just
Mm-hmm.
how and then we're both third generation. I'm now realizing we're both at the third generation of our worldly signs. I know I'm not
Yeah,
calling them
we're right.
correct.
We're at
I'm
the
not
yeah. We're both
what are
last deacon of the last 2 signs, which also
yeah,
makes us like in sync.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
interesting. We have a lot more parallels than I realize, you and I. So
We
sorry.
do. We
Back to Naomi
do. I love
Campbell.
it. Yeah, yeah. Well,
But that's really
Naomi's
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
The
she has a lot
degree.
of fun with her Gemini.
Yeah.
She's learning the energies in this lifetime.
Hmm.
And yeah, same with Marilyn. There's a lot of ease in this chart and a good amount of healthy tension as well. You want that balance. Otherwise, they say you can become a little bit too complacent or
Idle hands become the devil's playthings, as they say.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh yeah.
love
I'm
Naomi.
just looking at Marilyn's chart. I was like, oh yeah, this bitch was gonna self-sabotage from the beginning. Respectfully. As a
Respectfully.
self-sabotager. But like in a way that just does make me like, she loved that boy. She loved that president. I'm sorry. I'm not
No,
making
it's
light of it. I
true.
just
It's
am like looking at
true.
her chart made me like, oh, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ, Marilyn, you poor angel baby. Like
I know.
everyone just pour a little out for the broad, for the
Yeah.
beautiful broad. But yeah, Naomi last sorry, Heather. I don't want to take away from Naomi's, but are there any like would that be considered maybe a red flag? Someone being in the first deacon of their sign? Is that something to be like aware of, or does it more just sort of like it gives you more of like a little insight as to like where they're coming from? And it's just
Yeah.
so funny, sorry, how so many people say like obviously I'm just pulling from my own example, but like when people are like, oh, February Pisces and February Pisces and March Pisces are different. Like how people are like, oh, are you a September Libra or October Libra? Like it is so funny that people feel a difference
Mm-hmm.
with that. Like no shit. I really
Yeah.
never knew about the degrees.
Yeah,
As
yeah, totally.
I know you've talked to me about it before. It's just for whatever reason really comprehended for me this episode. That's really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, usually, um, if you are like an early Gemini, then your personal planets have a higher chance of being in Taurus. So I think that affects it too. That's like when people say
Mm.
cusp, that's what I think of. It's like you have more
Right.
personal planets in the sign that precedes,
Right.
you know?
Whereas like I
So
have more personal planets in the
in
side that,
Aries,
yeah,
yeah.
because I'm so
So
close to
I
it.
think that's kind of how it affects it more. So
Interesting.
yeah.
That's why there, and we've talked about that. We have talked about before how
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
you tend to like lean closer to, and that makes sense now with the
But
degrees. But yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a red flag. I would say
Yeah, sorry, that
that
was the wrong word for
no,
it.
that's funny though.
I guess I
But
more meant like, is it a is that real intel? I guess more when you're looking at
yeah,
a
I guess
chart, maybe
so. In a very
understanding.
nuanced
Yeah, right.
way, I think that yeah, there's a bit of like your energy is learning the energy. Your body's
Truly,
learning the
yeah,
energy. You're just like I don't know.
it is
It's
interesting.
yeah.
That and
Something to
like, well,
think about.
again, like you said, like when your personal planets are more in the sign that precedes you or the sign that comes like after your sign, it is just sort of like a compass of knowing like, I think it's also, it's kind of just it's a nice compass of being able to
Mhm.
tell like, oh, I've got a lot of Aries undertones, for example,
Yeah.
which kind of sometimes interrupts my Pisces. Like that, it
Totally,
only kind of is
totally.
showing you how much that could maybe override. It's
Yeah.
important
It
for also knowing
colors.
like, yes, for like
Yeah.
literally knowing what kind of like, because again, sometimes mutable signs aren't right next to other mutable signs, and just because
Right.
your sun is this with all, when all your personal planets are in something completely different, it's just again more intel
The more
for how you
texture you
process.
can add, the more you can have
Get in
fun
there.
with
Yeah.
really exploring these energies and
And tapping
understanding it in a
into
very
yourself.
nuanced, colorful way. Yeah, totally. I love
I
it.
love that shit. I love that shit, Heather. Sorry, I just got excited.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's really fun.
Naomi, sweet. Come on the pod. You're a blast. We love your Gemini energy.
Yeah.
I do. I can't believe, Heather, this is our last, right? Our last
Our
Gemini
last Gemini
episode.
episode. It's really sad. I know. And
It
then
is.
yeah, we're
And
entering
we're
summer, entering
hopping right into
Cancer.
that Cancer.
But first we have the Gemini new moon.
That's right. We're gonna have
And
that Gemini all through or all throughout our Cancer time.
yeah, and there's June is like a weird month astrologically because I think I've said this before that although Gemini takes up a lot of June and it's a very cerebral, heady time, there's these other energies that are really like intuitive, emotional. I mean, obviously moving into Cancer, we go more into our emotions, but then Mercury, because it's been in retrograde for a while, just whizzes through Gemini, only spends 2 weeks in Gemini. And I guess that's a thing where
Wow.
after a retrograde, it moves really fast. So it's like Mercury's not even spending a lot of time in Gemini before it hops into Cancer. And Saturn is going to start retrograding on June 17th through Pisces. So now Saturn's retrograding, and I'm having a feeling that's going to affect our Saturn returns. But also this
Stay the
concept
fuck
that
out of
we've been
Pisces, Saturn. I
literally
don't have time.
this
As a Pisces, I
concept.
can't.
I know. No, I'm kind of like bracing myself because it's this theme that we've been dealing with all year since Saturn has entered Pisces.
Right.
Where we understand the ideal life, what the ideal life would look like for ourselves, but then Saturn is the sign of bringing that into reality. So throughout especially the second half of June, we might have experiences where we're reprogramming how to compromise those two, like how to bring the ideal into reality. We've kind of been working at that all year, but as Saturn starts to retrograde, it's sort of like all right, rewind, take stock, like
Right.
reprogram something to continue trying to bring the ideal into reality.
Wow. I love that, Heather.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
gorgeous. Nothing to
yeah.
be afraid of. We
I
have nothing to
I
fear,
know.
listeners.
It's true.
We're going to be fine.
It's true.
But we talked about this from the start of this new year. This was not gonna be a light year.
No,
Energetically, there's
no,
just
it's
been
not.
so many shifts,
I
like,
know. It's
and
insane.
movements. I know this happens every year, but we've had some heavy hitters out of the gates, like just some like major movements out of the gate, and I feel like we're still experiencing like the ripples of that,
For sure.
in a beautiful way, in a way
Yeah.
that is needed, and like an awakening that like we've been kind of aching for, and
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I'm so,
I know.
I every time I get reminded that the new moons have switched up this year and how like whatever new sun we enter, we take that previous sign with
Mm-hmm.
us. Like I'm really it's going to be interesting to feel that Gemini new moon energy into Cancer. I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I kind of interpret it as like this is your final awakening around like a choice, and then we enter Cancer, and you can really feel into that. Like really feel into how does that new thing feel? You
And
know,
like
that
really
new
like the
awareness,
yeah,
that new
actually being in
acceptance
it.
of your choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually being in it. Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful beautiful episode this was, Heather. What a beautiful
Yeah.
time we're in. Like ebbs and flows, baby. We're out here
Mhm.
doing it. Marilyn,
Mhm.
Naomi, we take them everywhere we go.
We
We've got this
do.
Gemini new moon coming right into Cancer. It's
Mhm.
just, it's all we're balancing, baby. We're in our authentic air selves. We
Mhm.
really are.
Mhm. Mhm.
Gorgeous.
Learning through chatting with others as we do on this
Truly.
pod. Yep.
Oh, there's just been so much. There's just been so much. And in
I
an
know.
like I'm just like, whew, we got a lot going on. We got a
Mhm.
lot going on. We got a lot coming up. And I'm excited for it, Heather. I really
I'm
am.
too.
I'm
I'm
ready
too.
for it all.
Me too.
The adventure awaits.
Yep. On with the journey.
On to the next one. All right, folks. And with that, we will see you and hear you and love you right back here next Thursday.
See you then.
See you
Infinite
then.
abundance.
Flip that coin, baby. Pick a side, make a choice. Dare yourselves today. It's all just a leap of faith. Trust,
Exactly.
trust, my friends. We love you.
Love you.
Infinite abundance. Bye.
Bye.